She rented a cabin to escape everything, to grieve alone, to disappear. But then I showed up, wrong keys, same cabin, snowed in. And what started as awkward silence turned into something neither of us expected. Stay with me, because this isn't just a love story. It's about finding someone when you've stopped looking. The gravel cracked beneath the tires as Sienna's car curved around the final bend of the mountain road, pine trees rising like sentinels on either side. The cabin came into view, wooden small, nestled against a snowy embankment like it had been waiting for years. She parked the car and cut the engine. Silence, just wind and trees. That was the point. She exhaled, gripping the steering wheel one more second before releasing it. The leather was cold under her fingers. It had been nearly too long since Ethan's heart had stopped in his sleep, and still Sienna hadn't learned how to move without him. His coffee mug was still in the cupboard. His book was still on the nightstand. The back of the closet still smelled like cedar and something that could make her cry in under a second. But she hadn't cried in months. She couldn't. She reached for her bag, pulled her coat tighter, and stepped out. The air bit her cheeks, but it was clean, free of the noise she couldn't bear anymore. The condolences, the advice, the thinly veiled pity of well-meaning friends who called just to check in. She didn't need checking in on. She needed to disappear for a little while. The front door creaked as she pushed it open. Inside, the cabin smelled of wood and faint cinnamon, maybe from the logs stacked by the fireplace. A small kitchen sat to the left, a reading nook to the right, and a ladder led up to a sleeping loft overhead. It was rustic, charming, untouched by anything digital, no TV, no clock, just what she needed. Sienna unpacked slowly, carefully, like it might distract her from the ache in her chest. Books, tea, a worn sweater that used to be Ethan's. She placed his photo on the mantel without thinking, then froze. No, not this time. Not here. She put it back in her bag. By evening, the sky had turned a soft, bruised purple. Snow fell in slow, lazy flakes. Sienna stood by the fire, warming her hands, wrapped in silence that didn't demand anything from her. Then 3 sharp knocks at the door. She turned, her heart jumping, once confused. She wasn't expecting anyone. No one even knew she was here, not really. She opened the door and stared. A man stood there, snow clinging to the hood of his sweatshirt, a duffel bag slung over one shoulder, and a confused, slightly apologetic smile on his face. "Oh, hi," he said, brushing snow from his eyebrows. "Weird question, but is this cabin number 12? "Yes," she said cautiously. "Who are you, Noah?" he replied, adjusting the strap on his bag. "I booked this place for the week." Her eyes narrowed. "There's been a mistake. I booked this cabin." "No, I did," he said, pulling out his phone. "Look, I got the confirmation." Sienna sighed, stepping back as he held out the phone. Sure enough, cabin 12, check-in name Noah Clark. She blinked. That's impossible. The wind howled behind him. The snow was coming down harder now, clinging to his shoulders. He didn't look like a threat. He looked tired and young, probably 10, maybe 15 years younger than her. His smile was soft, not cocky, not intrusive, just trying to make sense of something that didn't. "Look," he said, taking a step back, "if there's a mix-up, I can figure it out in the morning." I didn't expect a blizzard. She hesitated, torn between practicality and her aching desire to be completely alone. "It's an hour back to the main road," she said finally. "You'd be driving blind." He nodded once, grateful. "I can sleep on the couch, just one night. I won't even breathe loud. Even..." Sienna exhaled through her nose. "Fine, one night. Just don't make yourself too comfortable." "Wouldn't dream of it," he said with a grin. That damn him was actually kind of charming. He stepped inside, stamping snow off his boots. "Thanks," he added, looking around. "Wow, cozy. It was supposed to be," she said. He glanced at her. "Got it. I'll keep to myself." She disappeared into the kitchen, poured tea into a mug, and drank it standing. She could feel him glancing around, awkward, but not imposing. He set his bag near the stairs, tugged off his hoodie, revealing a long-sleeved thermal shirt underneath. Tattoos peeked from the edge of his sleeve. He was built like someone who used to play sports but didn't brag about it. Broad shoulders, kind eyes. Definitely too young to be here. "Why a cabin?" she asked before she could stop herself. He blinked, surprised she was speaking. "Oh, long story. I'm not asking for the whole thing." He smiled. "Needed to clear my head. Life's been complicated. Join the club." Silence stretched. Sienna turned toward the fireplace, stirring the flames. She hadn't shared space with a man in years. The last person who sat beside her fire had been Ethan, reading a novel and rubbing her ankle with his foot under a blanket. The thought stabbed her unexpectedly. She didn't want to look at Noah, didn't want to feel anything. He settled onto the couch, quiet, respectful. He didn't pull out his phone, just watched the fire like he was thinking of someone too. The silence between them shifted, not awkward, not yet warm, but no longer cold. That night in the loft, Sienna lay awake, listening to the fire crackle below. She heard him roll over once, then again, then stillness. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself and closed her eyes, willing herself to forget the shape of another presence in the same room. But the image lingered, his eyes soft in the firelight. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the windows in gold sheets. Snow blanketed everything in silence. Sienna patted down the ladder, expecting to find Noah still asleep, but he wasn't. He was outside, clearing the steps with a shovel. She watched through the window. Who even does that? By the time he came inside, breath fogging in the air, she'd made coffee. She poured 2 mugs before she realized what she was doing. He smiled. Oh, thanks. She handed it to him with a half shrug. Don't make it a habit. He laughed once, took a sip. Too late. This is better than anything I make. They ate in silence, a piece hanging between them, like steam from their mugs. Later, while she read on the couch, Noah pulled out a weathered notebook and started sketching. The pencil scratches caught her ear. You draw? Just to get stuff out of my head. Show me. He hesitated, then turned the book toward her. A sketch of the fireplace, the corner of the room, light shadow depth. That's good, she said, surprised. He shrugged. It's something. You always this humble, only around beautiful strangers who let me crash at their cabin. She looked up sharply, but his face was unreadable, half teasing, half sincere. Sienna didn't smile, but she didn't scold him either. By evening, the tension was quieter. Their conversation had grown more relaxed: books, movies, music. He told her he used to play guitar in a band before life twisted in ways he didn't expect. She didn't ask for details. She respected the edges of his silence the way he respected hers. That night, they sat by the fire again, closer this time, not quite touching, but there was a new gravity in the space between them. I'm sorry you lost someone, he said quietly. She glanced at him. I didn't say I did. You didn't have to. She swallowed. The heat of the fire touched her face, but not the chill beneath her ribs. My husband, she said. Ethan. Heart attack. He nodded softly. I lost my brother, he said. Motorbike accident. He was always the reckless one. Silence stretched. I came here to forget, she admitted. I came here because I couldn't. She looked at him, then really looked. And in his eyes, she saw it, not pity, not flattery, just recognition. I'm sorry the cabins are not empty, he said gently. But I'm not sorry it brought us here. She didn't answer, but she didn't look away. Sienna woke to silence, not the kind of silence she came for, the comforting, restorative hush of nature, but a tense, shared quiet that reminded her she wasn't alone. A few logs crackled in the fireplace, casting a golden glow across the cabin's worn wooden floors. The storm outside was softer now, but the world was still sealed shut by snow. She sat up on the couch, brushing her hair from her face. Her sweater had twisted around her in the night, and her neck ached. She looked across the room. Noah was already up, seated at the little kitchen table. His hair was tousled, his glasses smudged, and he was sipping coffee from a chipped mug as he scribbled into a notebook. He looked like a college student, or a poet, or someone who never meant to be here either. She didn't mean to stare. He glanced up and caught her. Morning, he said gently. No smirk, no arrogance, just that. Morning, she said, rubbing her arms. I must have knocked out. You did. He stood, careful not to move too fast. I didn't want to wake you. There's coffee if you want. I could use it. She hesitated, then added, thanks. Noah poured a cup and passed it to her. Their fingers didn't touch, but the closeness caught them both. Sienna took the mug and turned away quickly, pretending to study the snow pressing against the window. How bad is it out there, she asked. Still thick, he said. I checked the radio. Roads are closed. Power's still out. Looks like we're here a little longer. She sighed deeply. Perfect. Noah smiled faintly. Yeah, not exactly how I planned my weekend either. She leaned against the wall, sipping. What were you running from? The question came out before she meant to ask it. She regretted it instantly. But to her surprise, Noah didn't flinch. He sat back down. Noise, he said. I needed quiet. She waited. He didn't elaborate. And for the first time in a long time, Sienna felt herself relax. She didn't owe him her pain, and he didn't owe her his. They could just be. They spent the afternoon dancing around each other, literally and emotionally. Every time Sienna walked toward the fireplace, Noah was already there. Every time she tried to chop vegetables for soup, he'd grab the knife. It became a quiet game of apologies and avoidance. By mid-afternoon, the cabin felt smaller than ever. I'm not used to sharing space, she finally said. I figured, he replied, grinning softly. You talk to yourself a lot. She gave him a look. Only when I think no one's listening. I wasn't just overhearing. Sienna tried not to smile. He had that way about him, disarming, light-footed around grief, but not afraid of it. They ate soup in silence. Noah made a point not to ask too much, and Sienna let herself enjoy the food without needing to speak. But after the dishes were done and the wind picked up again, the silence settled too heavily. She stood near the fireplace, staring into the flames. You were married, Noah said quietly from behind her. She didn't turn. I was. She expected him to follow up, to offer sympathy, to ask what happened, but he didn't, so she spoke. His name was Michael. He loved cabins. That's why I booked this place. We were supposed to come here, but he was already too sick. Noah nodded slowly. I'm sorry. Everyone says that because it's true. She finally turned to look at him. You're not scared of saying the wrong thing, are you? Oh, he stood. But I've said enough wrong things to learn when to stay quiet. She exhaled, almost a laugh. It caught her by surprise. Then the lights flickered. The wind howled louder, and the cabin trembled slightly. Sienna moved closer to the fire. What did you do back in the real world? I worked in tech, Noah said. Started a company, too young, burned out even younger. Now I fix things, computers mostly. And I write. Write what? Nothing important. Everything someone writes is important to someone. He looked at her for a long time. I don't know about that, he said, but thank you. Later that night, the storm came back in full force. They added more logs to the fire. Neither of them suggested going to bed, mostly because they both knew sleep wouldn't come. Sienna pulled a thick blanket around her and sank onto the couch again. Noah sat on the rug near the hearth, cross-legged like a boy watching the flames. Do you ever wonder, she said quietly, what happens to love when someone dies? Noah looked at her. All the time. And he shrugged. I think it waits somewhere. She nodded slowly. Neither of them spoke for a long time. I don't want to feel anything, she whispered. That's okay, but I do. He looked at her, not with desire, but understanding. I'm not here to replace anything, he said. I know, but I'm not nothing either. She swallowed hard. You're kind. I try to be. You remind me of someone I thought I'd never meet again. He looked down. I'm not him, he said. I know. She paused. But you're here. When the night grew late, the wind finally calmed. The storm broke like something had passed through it. A strange hush settled, like the world was holding its breath. Sienna lay back on the couch facing the fire, her eyes heavy. Noah moved to the other side of the room, curling up in a blanket near the bookshelf. He didn't say goodnight, but in the quiet, something unspoken held between them. Something thawing. Not yet love, not yet trust, but the beginning of warmth. The morning arrived silver, and still a world remade in white. Sienna blinked awake to the quiet hiss of melting snow and the smell of cinnamon, faint, warm, and utterly foreign to the grief that had followed her for months. For a moment, she thought she was alone. Then she sat up, and there he was, Noah, standing at the stove in a gray hoodie and mismatched red socks, cooking something that crackled gently in a pan. I didn't mean to wake you, he said, glancing over. You slept hard. I usually don't, she murmured, pulling the blanket tighter around her. What is that French toast, he said. Well, the cabin version of it. Stale bread, powdered sugar, and whatever this is. He lifted a small tin of cinnamon with a theatrical flourish. Sienna blinked at him. You're making me breakfast. I'm making me breakfast, he corrected. But I made enough to share. I figured it was the least I could do since I technically crashed your morning trip. You make it sound so festive, she muttered, rubbing her eyes. Noah just shrugged, and plated 2 slices of toast. He brought her one on a ceramic dish and set it gently on the coffee table in front of her. Might help you feel like a person again. She stared at it. She couldn't remember the last time someone had made her breakfast, not since Michael. Thanks, she said softly. Don't thank me yet, he said, sliding onto the floor with his plate. I might have poisoned it. She laughed out loud, unguarded, and it startled both of them. Noah grinned like he'd just won a secret bet. You laugh like someone who hasn't in a while. I haven't, she said. They ate in companionable silence, except for the occasional creak of melting snow sliding off the cabin roof. Outside, the trees were dripping sunlight. The storm had left a world of glass, and inside something had subtly shifted. A quiet ease, a hesitant warmth. Not flirtation, not yet, but something deeper. Something like the beginning of trust. Later, they went outside. The snow was knee-deep, but Noah insisted on helping shovel a path to the woodpile. Sienna bundled herself in a coat she hadn't worn since Michael's funeral. The sleeves were still too long, and the scent of mothballs made her eyes sting. I didn't think you'd be the outdoorsy type, she teased as Noah handed her a shovel. I'm not, he said, but I figure if we're going to be trapped in a Hallmark movie, we should at least pretend we're surviving. She rolled her eyes but smiled despite herself. They shoveled in silence for a while, side by side, boots crunching into the icy crust. The air smelled like pine and smoke. Every breath felt sharper than the last. At one point, Sienna stopped leaning on her shovel. Do you ever feel like you're pretending more than you're living? Noah paused, leaning on his too. All the time, he said, especially after I burned out. Everyone thought I had it all together, but I was crumbling. I ran this company like I knew what I was doing, and inside I just wanted someone to tell me it was okay to stop. She looked at him, then truly looked. You seem like you know who you are, she said. I'm just getting good at faking it, he replied with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. They stood there for a moment in the open, surrounded by snow and too many things unspoken. Then she said, I didn't come here to be around people. I didn't either. So why haven't you left? Noah looked at her quiet for a moment. Because you didn't ask me to. That night, the fire was slower to start. The logs were damp. Noah huffed and cursed under his breath until Sienna gently nudged him aside and took over. My husband used to build campfires like an art form, she said softly, stacking the wood just so. I can barely toast bread, Noah admitted. They sat across from each other again, this time on opposite ends of the couch, their bodies angled away, but their eyes kept finding the center. Tell me something no one else knows about you, he said. She hesitated. Why? Because sometimes it's easier to tell a stranger. You're not a stranger anymore. That stopped him. For a moment, he seemed like he didn't know what to do with that. Okay, she said finally. When I was 18, I wanted to move to Paris. I had this idea I'd work in a flower shop and write poetry and wear silk scarves. Did you ever go? No, she said. I met Michael instead and I stayed. Do you regret it? She shook her head. No. But sometimes I wonder if there's still a version of me out there who would have gone. I bet she would have been beautiful, he said quietly. She was. Later that night, Sienna couldn't sleep. She walked softly down the hall, wrapping the blanket tighter around her shoulders. The house creaked gently under the weight of quiet. She stopped outside Noah's door. It was ajar. Inside, he lay on the bed reading by lantern light. He looked up when he saw her. I couldn't sleep, she said. Me neither. They didn't speak for a long moment. Then she stepped into the room and sat at the edge of the bed, her back to him. I keep waiting to feel normal again, she said, to feel like I'm not wearing someone else's life. I don't think normal comes back, Noah said. But something else does, something honest, something real. He moved beside her slowly, carefully, and sat next to her, their shoulders barely touching. I don't know what this is, she whispered, or what I want. You don't have to, he said. I'm not here for anything but this moment right now. She turned to look at him. In the flickering lamplight, his face was softer than she remembered younger, but not naive. She reached up and gently, tentatively touched his cheek. It wasn't a kiss, but it could have been. Instead, they stayed like that for a long time, two people suspended between the past and whatever came next, with only the sound of the fire crackling and the wind dying slowly outside. The snow began to melt. Sienna stood at the edge of the porch, arms folded, watching tiny rivers trail down the cabin roof. The world was slushy softening. Mud edged the banks of the pines, and still Noah was here. She wasn't sure how she felt about that. Inside, he was fiddling with the old record player, the one Sienna hadn't dared touch since Michael passed. She'd kept the cabin almost like a museum, books undisturbed, the firewood stacked the way he used to do it, even the coat he wore hanging behind the door. Noah somehow had broken into it all without knocking anything over. Now a soft jazz tune crackled to life. Noah poked his head out. Do you always bring dusty heartbreak music to your snowstorms, or is this just coincidence? Sienda gave him a look. That record belonged to my husband. Noah went pale. I'm joking, she said just barely. It's fine. He stepped onto the porch beside her. The record played behind them low sweet, like someone humming through grief. Do you want me to leave? He asked, not for the first time. I don't know, she said honestly. They watched the horizon for a while. Noah didn't move. He didn't speak. He simply waited. That was the thing about him. He never rushed her, never made her feel like she had to explain the 100 ways she was still broken. And somehow that made her want to tell him everything. Later that afternoon, she did something she hadn't done in months. She opened the door to his room, the one she hadn't stepped into since the funeral. Noah didn't follow her, not until she said his name. He found her sitting on the edge of the bed, holding an old sweater, worn soft with time. This room has been like a tomb, she said. Noah leaned in the doorway, quiet. I kept it exactly the same, she said, even though I know he's not coming back, even though the silence in here feels like it could crush me. Noah stepped inside and sat beside her. He didn't touch her, didn't try to make it better. She looked down at her hands. You know what's crazy, she said. I don't even know what I'm mourning anymore. Him, the life we had, or the person I used to be. Probably all of it, he said softly. They sat like that a while longer. The record had stopped. The sun was going down again. Outside, the trees sighed under their own weight. I came here to be alone, she said. I know. I needed to fall apart somewhere no one would see me. I see you, he said. She turned toward him. Noah, she said, and her voice was low, almost trembling. I'm afraid I'm using you to feel something. I'd rather be used for that than nothing at all. That made her laugh, wet and crooked. You're too young to be this gentle, she whispered. He smiled. You're too beautiful to be this sad. That night, they made dinner together, pasta too much garlic. The kitchen steamed up with warmth. Sienna put on a playlist from her phone, not jazz this time, something older, lighter. They danced in between chopping and stirring. They laughed. He bumped her hip by accident. She bumped him back on purpose and then froze her face pale again. Noah noticed. What's wrong? I forget sometimes, she said, that I'm allowed to feel something good. You are. I don't want to betray him. You're not, Noah said. Loving someone new doesn't erase what came before. It just means you're still alive. Sienna looked at him. Really looked. Noah, she whispered, if I kiss you, it won't mean I'm ready. Then let it just mean this moment, he said. She kissed him. It was soft and uncertain, more breath than lips. A shiver ran down her spine when they pulled apart. Her eyes were glassy, but not with pain. I don't know what happens tomorrow, she said. You don't have to, he replied. They stood there in the kitchen, salt water boiling music playing the ghosts, stepping back just long enough to let something new in. The snow had melted mostly enough that the roads were open, and Noah's car was no longer buried like a forgotten thing from another life. The world was no longer locked in with them. They were no longer forced to stay, and that made everything feel suddenly real. Sienna woke to the smell of coffee, dark, rich, just how she liked it. She padded into the kitchen barefoot, and there he was, already pouring a second mug, already smiling in that soft morning way he did. You're up late, he teased. You're up too early. He handed her the mug without a word. And for a moment, it felt like they'd been doing this for years, like this was their cabin, their fireplace, their slow bruised mornings. But it wasn't. It couldn't be. She sat at the little table watching the steam rise from the mug. Noah watched her. He always did, without pressure, without hunger, just attention, gentle, steady attention. You're leaving today, she said. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat across from her and said, unless you ask me to stay. Sienna looked out the window. A few robins were hopping through puddles where the snow used to be. I'm not ready for this, she said. I know. I meant for you for anything. I know. She met his eyes. And you still showed up. He smiled that tired, stubborn, hopeful smile. Wrong key, remember? The day moved slowly. Sienna tried to busy herself, folding blankets, wiping down counters, refilling the woodpile as if it mattered. Noah helped quietly until she told him not to. Don't make it easy to miss you, she said. But it was already too late for that. Around noon, he carried his bag to the front door. The driveway was clear. His tires weren't spinning in ice anymore. Nothing was keeping him here but her. And she didn't know if she had the right to ask him to stay. He stood there, one hand on the doorknob. I didn't come here looking for you, he said. I know, but I found you anyway. She said nothing. He turned back toward her. Sienna, you don't have to promise me anything. You don't have to know what comes next. But if you feel something, anything real, don't pretend it didn't happen. She looked at him, her chest tight. I want to let you in, she said, but I'm still in love with a ghost. Then let me sit with him, Noah said. Let me light a fire and you can talk to him while I'm there. Let me be the person who doesn't run when you talk about someone else. Tears welled up. She wasn't ready for this, but she was ready for something. Stay, she whispered. Noah stepped away from the door. Just for now, she said quickly, as if it would hurt less to call it temporary. He nodded. Just for now. They made dinner again. They talked about music and stupid movies and the things she never thought she'd laugh at again. He told her about his father, how he left before Noah was born, and how fixing things had always been his way of trying to piece together what was missing. I used to fix watches, he said. Tiny gears, tiny moments. Like if I could just fix enough seconds, maybe I'd stop losing people. Sienna reached for his hand. You didn't lose me, she said. Not yet. They moved slowly, tenderly that night. There was no rush, no erasing the past. There was only warmth and breath and two people who had been cold for too long, finding something human between them. In the morning, she woke up before him. She went to the room she'd left untouched since Michael's death. Michael's room, and opened the window. Let the air in, let the ghosts out, she whispered. Thank you, and closed the door behind her. Noah was in the kitchen again, barefoot, making coffee. He looked up, saw the light in her eyes. You okay? She crossed the floor, kissed him without answering. That was her answer. They came back to the cabin the next winter together. Noah brought the wrong key again, but this time it didn't matter that she had the right one. They lit the fireplace, opened the window. In the old room, played that same jazz record again. And as the snow fell outside, soft and quiet, Sienna whispered, I thought I came here to be alone, but I think I came here to find you. And Noah, ever steady, ever honest, took her hand and said, wrong key, right life. Sienna and Noah's story reveals a profound truth. Sometimes life's greatest connections arise from mistakes like a wrong key in a snowbound cabin. Sienna sought solitude to grieve her late husband, believing her heart was too broken to feel again, while Noah, escaping his own pain, stumbled into her world. Their unexpected meeting marked by shared silences. French toast and honest conversations teaches us that healing doesn't require erasing the past, but allowing new warmth to coexist with it. Noah's patience and Sienna's courage to let him stay show that love in any form can thaw even the coldest grief when we dare to be seen. This resonates deeply in a world where we often hide our pain, fearing it's too heavy for others. Their story urges us to embrace the unplanned moments, to offer kindness to a stranger, and to trust that even broken hearts can find new rhythms. Sienna's choice to open Michael's room and let the ghosts out reminds us that moving forward honors, rather than betrays, those we've lost. Have you ever found connection in an unexpected place, or helped someone heal by simply staying? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. If this touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to join our community of storytellers. Let's keep spreading the magic of human connection, one wrong key at a time.